I'd like one of you bureaucrats out there to look me in the eye and tell me, when does my husband's life matter to you? Because it matters every day, every second of every day to me.
Well, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are. Depends on what time it is. But hey, it's time for the second part of our takeover of the scope by Kafra and Inko and all the peoples. So we are endeavoring to talk about topics that I think that we haven't necessarily focused on. There's a lot of talk about harm reduction. There's a lot of talk about human rights. We talked about that last night. We've talked about government overregulation and blind ideology and things like that. But there's a certain topic that I think that it bears time for our scrutiny. It should be something that is right on everybody's mind. We're going to be talking about neurodiversity. We're going to be talking about nicotine and what benefits people that are neurodiverse, and we're going to explain some terms that you may not know. I didn't always know these words myself. I am neurodiverse, but I never actually used that label until Dr. Charles Gardner brought it to our attention. And you're going to find out that a lot of the most passionate voices about this vaping technology, about clean nicotine, are people that are on this spectrum of the neurodiverse, and some of us have multiple things that make us need or want nicotine. But hey, before we get too deep into this, let's bring in my brother from another mother, Kevin.
I'm just here for the food.
There's food?
No, there's no food.
I missed food. So,
Hiya, Patrick.
I'm good. I'm proud to represent Son of Liberty. Hey, you've got You Don't Know Nicotine, and I've got the nicotine enhanced T-shirt on tonight because
right there.
I think that we should point out for people that nicotine does supercharge our brains.
Mm-hmm.
It does amazing things. So anyway, we've got three guests that we know. There's Skip. There's lovely Skip. There's Richard, and Kath is supposed to be here. I sent her the link. She replied. So she might be coming in a minute. So, hey, Skip has been nagging us forever to come on the show.
You're enjoying this, aren't you?
I am.
I love spending time with you and Richard. Richard's already been on our show, but we enjoy Richard. I'm jealous that Richard got to go to London this week to the rally in London and hang out with our friends. Dr. Charles Gardner was there. I see there was lots of fun people there, and Richard was there. What's going on, Richard?
It was a brilliant event, considering obviously COVID restrictions and things. There weren't as many people there as there would have been. But yes, it was absolutely brilliant to go and meet Dr. Gardner. He's a fantastic advocate for us. And I don't know how he does it, where he finds the energy to carry on as he does. Mm-hmm. But to help keep his energy up, I did manage to donate him a bottle of my homebrewed mead, which was Dr. Gardner's elixir for what ails you.
I saw the
Was
tweet.
the
I saw
name
the
of it.
tweet. So there was something else. Apparently, Skip cried.
What?
Oh,
Apparently, Skip cried.
The small award that we got, though it's absolutely blew me away. I mean, honestly, we don't deserve it, but it's just a wiki. Everybody seems to.
Okay, you say it's just a wiki.
Yes.
Just a wiki. But Kevin and I couldn't do a wiki.
What exactly was the award?
I should have brought it with me, shouldn't I? But unfortunately, it's actually still packed. I'm literally came back from London, grabbed a couple of hours sleep, and then jumped on the live stream.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
So-
thank you.
Well, thank
I
you for
haven't
that.
actually unpacked.
So, but
So-
what was the award for?
It's
Services
for-
to the vaping community for the Safer Nicotine Wiki team.
Nice.
For contributions to tobacco harm reduction.
Excellent.
Well,
One of
deserved.
these days, Kevin and I are going to get a Chucklehead Award for that.
Oh,
Maybe.
I want to order you one.
She's going to present it.
She's going to bonk
In
me in the head with
person.
it.
Yes.
She's going to get one of those ones with the big marble base and just walk up behind me and kabunk.
Like a
When
dunce
it's
cap.
30 below would be a good time to go to Texas and visit you.
Well, it
There.
doesn't get 30 below here, so
But it does here.
Yes, it does in Minnesota.
I didn't put my t-shirt on, but I too have a t-shirt for tonight.
Of course
It
you do.
says science, because figuring things out is better than making stuff up.
Mhm.
Can you send one of those to Stanton Glance, please?
I'd love to.
So
You guys-
today we've had a pretty good panel of people on during the day today. There's been a lot of good people on. There's been a lot of good people on every day that we've done this. Ignacio was on earlier. Well, our day and their day are completely different. So there's been a whole bunch of stuff, but tonight, and this is a topic that all of us are pretty good talking about. Kevin has the unique situation of having a spouse that benefits from nicotine because she has Alzheimer's. He has a son that's on the spectrum. Skip and Richard and I are all of us somewhere on that same spectrum. And we're going to talk about how nicotine affects us. But here's a quick few little facts. So 71% of adults with schizophrenia use nicotine, smoke. 60% with bipolar disorder, smoke. 40% ADHD or autism, smoke. And then in the general normal population, only 14% of the general population smokes. So just looking at those quick numbers pretty much show you who the main purchasers and smokers are. But then you go to the CDC's website. I'm going to share this real quick. I've shared this on the show when we had Dr. Charles Gardner on the show because we were reading each other's mind, and he was talking about this exact stuff when we had him on the show. So this is directly from the CDC's website, and when the producer will share it, we'll share it on screen, but I'll still read it anyway. So the heading is tobacco use and quitting among individuals with behavioral health conditions, which I don't like that I don't like that title at all. But anyway, so mental health disorders, blah, blah, blah. Here's a horrible list of things that people are demonized for. Substance, and they throw substance use disorders in amongst us, the people that are on the spectrum. So they're saying 1 in 4 adults in the U.S. have some form of mental health condition, and 40% of all cigarettes that are consumed by people in these categories. And these are just the U.S. numbers. Now, this doesn't include other people that are living in poverty. It doesn't include people that are living in bad situations, abusive situations, stressful situations. those people also fall into that. The LGBTQ population also have higher smoking rates. So these are all things that we need to pay attention to. But specifically during the latest Truth Initiative campaign, their depression stick, their whole campaign is based on a model or a theory that the use of nicotine causes these problems. They're putting the chicken in front of the egg. We use these products to minimize the problems with our issues. Mm-hmm. So, Kevin, or not Kevin, I'm used to calling your name first. Richard, tell us a little bit about your story.
Okay, so I have multiple diagnoses. The main one is autism spectrum disorder. I also have ADHD, both of which were not diagnosed until I was 47 years old. And I've known that I wasn't quite the same as everybody else. Oh, sorry, I forgot one as well. I also have schizophrenia, or paranoid schizophrenia, which is probably the most difficult one to live with and to actually function through. I've known I was a bit different pretty much all my life from other people. And even when I smoked, I used to smoke 60 a day because I just couldn't seem to get enough nicotine. Nowadays, I use 48 milligram or 50 milligram nicotine pouches. And that actually is enough nicotine for me that I get enough to treat the symptoms that I get, particularly the ADHD symptoms, are so vastly improved by nicotine that it's just not true. I don't understand how people can take the meds which are prescribed when nicotine is actually so much better, at least from my point of view, for treating the symptoms, because they give you basically amphetamines.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with that is you take them in the morning, and then even if you wanted to try and snooze or something during the afternoon, you can't, because you're all amped up on these long-acting amphetamine type drugs.
So if you didn't have nicotine, if you didn't have the patch, what would it be like for you?
Well, I'd be a lot more kind of, I don't know, it's hard to describe how ADHD makes you feel, because it's not what people think it is. It makes you feel kind of almost panicky and like you know what needs to be done, but you can't actually get it together in your brain to put the tasks into order and divide them up into little bits so you can actually get on with it. Mm-hmm. It's a very strange thing, unless you've experienced it, to actually try and get your head around. But
I think three of us have the ADHD sign for sure.
Yes,
but you have other things that compound it. I mean, I have multiple diagnoses. My diagnoses are, I don't have schizophrenia. I have been, diagnosed bipolar, ADHD, and obsessive compulsive, which is already a wicked bad combination. But working with patients, I work with patients that are, paranoid schizophrenic. their world is a completely different world than ours. And your world is a completely...
It's not. My world is a completely different world, because that's one of the things, and I'd say that's the hardest thing to live with, just simply because the drugs you have to take to make it not be a problem are a big problem. Nicotine is a game changer on that front, because the drugs I need to take for the schizophrenia are very sedating, and that's part of the reason that I have the Adderall as well, is because of the highly sedating drugs that I need to take. I honestly could not function without nicotine. Nicotine is a stimulant, but it's short acting, which means if I want to go to sleep or take a nap or something, I just don't have nicotine for an hour, and then it's out of my system. I can go to sleep. If I take the Adderall, then I'm awake for the whole day, whether I like it or not. And it also makes the ADHD symptoms kind of different, not worse or better. It kind of brings out anxiety. It brings out, which nicotine doesn't do. Nicotine actually reduces anxiety.
Yeah.
How did you realize it was nicotine that was helping you?
When I tried to give up smoking, on one of the many occasions I've tried to give up smoking, and I went from 60 cigarettes a day to a 21 milligram patch.
Yeah.
I suddenly realized that I was smoking because I was treating symptoms, not, and the nicotine patch just wasn't enough nicotine.
Right.
21 milligram patch when you're a 60 a day smoker is a drop in the ocean.
I took Adderall when I first got my diagnosis, and having a little bit of it was manic depressive when I first got diagnosed with bipolar. That's what they called it then. I actually had heart palpitations, all sorts. My anxiety was magnified because of that. So
absolutely.
I get
that. It does the same to me, and I also you can get palpitations just because it's a strong stimulant. And it changes the way your body acts, and you can get quite sort of hyper and be out of tune with other people around you, because suddenly your head's going 90 to the dozen and everybody around you is going, what on earth are you on? And
I'm on medicine.
Nicotine, yeah. And you explain to them, it's medicine to treat my diagnoses, and they go, okay, where can I get some? But nicotine doesn't do that. Nicotine actually reduces my anxiety. It puts me on a level more close to normal people, and where I can interact with them and I can actually have a conversation without going off on a tangent every 5 seconds. It's really, it was a complete game changer to discover vaping, and I vape quite high nicotine liquid. I use a 90-watt box mod, and I vape 48 milligram liquid.
Wow.
So that's...
Yep.
I mean, what you need is what you get. I mean, wow. That would shoot, the back of my head would probably shoot out with that high wattage and that high name. I could do either or. I don't think I could do both. Kevin, are you willing to talk about stuff?
stuff. Sure. I don't know that you mentioned earlier, the three of you definitely are. My wife, my son, and probably the other. I've never been diagnosed with anything. That doesn't mean I don't have anything. But
no, but I mean, you've witnessed it. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
obviously, your wife vapes.
Mhm.
She's using a DIY to help,
Yeah.
order her life and focus on a topic and keep everything real. And obviously, your son, he smokes.
Like a freight train. And
So,
I
I mean,
did too. Richard's describing me 10 years ago, just the focus thing and the scatterbrain thing, I guess is what I always called it. Or the lack of ability to focus at times. So that's part of it. Knowing what I know about nicotine, and believe me, I don't know nicotine, has opened my eyes to other things, even for my wife. So, and she's at 3, she can't handle the throat hit any higher. But I think if anything goes worse, I've seen the patch studies that Dr. Newhouse has done. And if I throw a patch on her, I'll be happy to do that, if that's going to help her memory. Uh-oh, is she coming back?
I hope so. And we have another friend that's supposed to come.
I think he
sent her the
knows.
link, and she hasn't showed up yet. So
Yeah.
Skip.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your story.
Okay. So I started smoking when I was 10. Why wait? I mean, if you're gonna, you're gonna. Can you hear me?
Yes.
No. I was a unique child. I had a lot of unique behaviors. Back then, they didn't know that autism was a thing. So I suffered a lot of child abuse because my dad didn't like me doing things like flapping my hands. And just went through life trying to learn how to act up people. Of all the I suddenly became very depressed. I did a really good job of hiding it. I don't think any of you ever would have guessed. And after Aaron came up and showed me the You Don't Know Nicotine movie, and I talked to him for a bit, we figured out that something wasn't right. And I was planning on how I was going to die, and didn't seem abnormal to me. Some help, and I got diagnosed with depression, ADHD, autism, and I got a note of PTSD. So all that happened when I stopped using nicotine and was totally unaware that I had been self-medicating since I was 10. I now vape way higher nicotine than I ever vaped, and I've been vaping since 13.
So you actually quit nicotine because that was at the beginning. Vaping people kept pushing. Well, you can quit nicotine anytime. You can titrate yourself down, and then you found out that when you did that, it actually was deleterious. It was worse for you.
Anything?
So, Richard, until she comes back,
Sure.
Your experiences have led you to be so passionate and eager to participate in advocacy, which is amazing. And you start looking at a lot of us that are in this. I mean, I saw Judy at the event in the roundtable conversation, and she came out and said at the roundtable that she has ADHD.
Yes.
I think And, you know, there are so many passionate people that are in this community that are part of this advocacy thing that we do that are right in the same situation as us. You know, we talk about on the Son of Liberty show, we talk to or interview vapors from around the world and compare how their quit stories are so similar to our quit stories. But then when we start talking to other vaping advocates and we start talking about neurodiversity and the beneficial aspects of nicotine, and the next thing you know, we find out their stories are almost exactly like our stories too. It is amazing.
Yeah, it is. Weirdly enough, my story of smoking is pretty much the same as Skip. I also started at 10 years of age, and also did the thing of titrating down nicotine to 0, and suddenly finding that I was having, huge problems with everyday life, which I didn't have when I was on nicotine. So I titrated the nicotine back up to a point beyond where it was when I was smoking. And I'm actually much better for it than taking the things. If I took every drug I was prescribed, I'd be a zombie who just sat in a corner somewhere and dribbled. Because
been there, done that.
And yes, it's not a good look, is it?
No, it is definitely not. Those meds that they put you on for all of the things that you have, you know, oh, well, you have this, so you need this combination of meds. Oh, you have this, so take these ones. And then, oh, you have this, so here's another pill. And then you find out that the cocktail that you're taking makes you a completely different person. It
Yes.
It saps your will. You're, like you said, a zombie.
I mean,
you can't motivate yourself to do anything.
I mean, I'm really lucky at the moment. I found a really good doctor who is willing to let me dictate what I take and how much of it, and also supports the use of me using nicotine in place of things like Adderall and those kind of things to actually better treat my symptoms. And I'm so lucky to have that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times you get clinicians that really are very they're not very creative thinkers, and they're not really willing. You know, we always talk about meeting the person that we're treating, or the people that are governing us should meet us where we are. It's the same thing with our medical clinicians.
Yes,
so yeah,
absolutely.
Skip's moving now, and she's moving smoothly. So let's go back to Skip.
I can hear you.
All right. So we had heard your story all the way to the point where you had talked to Aaron and found out that you had been, late diagnosed with a lot of issues. And I had asked if you were managed or if you were feeling okay while you were vaping with nicotine. And then you titrated to 0, lowered your nicotine to 0, and then all of your symptoms came. Is that right?
They blew up in my face afterwards. I mean, now that I know what I have, it's obvious to me that I've had those challenges my whole life. I just never realized it until the depression hit. So yeah, now I vape way higher nicotine and I'm doing much better. Much better.
And are you on a plethora of meds, or is it just easily maintained and managed with just the nicotine?
I refuse to go on meds, and some people have an issue with that. I have a lot of trauma from my past that was never ever dealt with. And while I was going through therapy, I really wanted to just deal with things on my own. I'm very med sensitive. I often have really bad side effects to medication. So I take as few meds as possible. The only thing that we worry about is if I slip back into a depression, not being on medication for that. So I have to be very aware of what's going on in my head and just flat out tell people when I'm not doing well and quit being so dang independent and accept help when I need help.
Well, and that's why we have Mark.
Actually, believe it or not, I have not told my husband or my son about this.
But they're still able to participate in helping you.
Yes, my husband's a very good man.
I know
Obviously,
he takes great pictures.
Yes, he has a good sense of humor. But he is a very loving and supportive person. So he's very intuitive if I'm extra quiet or extra crabby or, you know.
And last night when you were watching the Scope stream and you fell asleep on the couch,
Yeah.
your loving husband got your cell phone and typed in the chat, "This is Mark. Skip has fallen asleep, and her battery is running down. How do I turn this off?"
Well, that's way better than a picture.
And I didn't think quickly enough to type in there, "You take a picture of your wife asleep on the couch, and I will teach you how to." Somebody else responded in the chat room before I could do this. I mean, I wasn't thinking on my feet. I was enjoying the stream, and I was like, "Dang it, that was a missed opportunity."
I'm so glad. So glad. He promised no more pictures. I don't think he's taken any in a while now.
But no, but I just thought that it was quite lovely that he felt comfortable, like he knew who we were, like he knew the people, like feels comfortable, like telling the world, "Hey, this is Mark. How do I turn my wife's phone off?" Like he felt like he was one of us, you know.
That's good. I talk about you guys a lot. I go home and talk about nicotine and vaping and.
Well, in one of the Twitter feeds, like he was responding, "Oh, I know who you are. You're the guy on the TV."
Yes, because every Friday, if I don't work, I go home from the shop and quickly make supper and try to take a quick nap so I can watch Son of Liberty Radio. And he's always watching TV. So I have my headset on so I can hear the computer. And then he has his wireless headset so he can watch TV. And we sit there side by side in our own little worlds doing our thing. So yeah, he's very familiar with all you guys.
But you're together. So
yes,
that is quite lovely.
We've been together since 1984.
George Orwell. Yeah, okay. So Skip, you know, a lot of people, you know, specifically, you know, Fig. Our friend Fig was in the Middle East and was in the military, and he came back with a case of PTSD. And you know, he would be the first to say that if I didn't have nicotine, my PTSD would be way worse, way more debilitating. And you know, when Dr. Glover was on the show, Morrow was on the show and talking about in New Zealand, and there's one of the clips, one of the short clips that we're using during Scope from our show is her discussing the fact that there is a lot of spousal abuse, that New Zealand has issues with women being abused, children being abused, and that is one of the reasons why in certain communities in New Zealand the smoking rates are higher.
I believe that in a heartbeat. Matter of fact, it was Fig. He used to talk to me like 2, 3, 4 in the morning when I was at work at the group home. And I was struggling one day and he was online and asked him if he could chat. And it was actually him that pointed out the possibility that I might have PTSD and told me I should ask my therapist about that. So, yeah, he's a good guy. I
Love
miss him.
Fig. Love
Yes.
him. He's so busy. He basically started a new life, and I still see him periodically on the medias, but he will always be our brother.
You bet.
Um,
Good guy.
so Richard, whose idea was this Safer Wiki thing?
I think it was mine. I'm pretty sure it was mine. I mean, it was just, I was sat there thinking about what could I do, what gap in the market was there in the safer nicotine space for something. And I kind of came up with the idea initially of doing a website that would just be a resource, a library of all the scientific information that we have, that every advocate seemed to have their own Google Doc or their own filing system of information. And it was just to try and bring that all together into one place. And in the end, I was browsing the internet, came across Wikipedia, found out that the software they're using is free to use.
Mm-hmm.
And I happen to have a home server anyway for my own vanity domain, basically. And I thought, well, why not? I'll install the software, I'll get it up and running. That way everybody can contribute who wants to contribute, and we can gather together all the information, put it in one place so that advocates have somewhere to link to that's easy to link, has all the information, and is like a central hub for everything that we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's an astounding feat you've done and are continuing to do. To me, there's a lot of information in there.
We wouldn't have the wiki without Richard. We were just looking up the history the other day. It was November 23rd of last year. Alan Beard tweeted looking for studies, and a bunch of people responded. And that's when we all became aware that people all over the world are collecting data. And he started a chat on Twitter, and we were like, we need some place to put it. And none of us have technical skills. And Richard went, I do. And it would have never have happened if Richard didn't have those skills and have the equipment or the means to buy the equipment that he needed to set it all up. And since then, every technical glitch we've had, Richard's been the one that's had to fix it. He's the one that backs up our system. He's the one that updates our system. He is our IT guy. Our chat has, I can't remember, it's either 26 or 28 people from around the world. They're all consumer advocates. And they all participate in one form or another. Some of us do the majority of the actual creation of material on the site, but everybody participates as far as gathering information or input on how to do things or how to deal with situations, or we all suffer from burnout now and then, picking each other up, discussing our neurodiversity issues, because there are several of us that face those types of challenges. So it's become an amazing international team effort. It's really cool.
Yeah, and we couldn't do it without each other.
Amen.
Everybody on the team has their strong points and their weak points, and we prop each other up.
Well,
and I'm quite happy to do the technical stuff. I find it easier to talk to computers than I do to people. I don't know why that is, but I think that's an autism thing, because computers are set out in such a way, they operate in such a way, you know exactly what to expect. you can focus on the task at hand, and it's just my thing. So I'm quite happy and pleased to be able to give something to the community that they can use.
I think that's the driving force for all of us. We all have experienced loss due to smoking. Some of us face health issues due to smoking. And we've all fought hard for harm reduction products. And it's nice to be able to provide advocates around the world with information that they can use to help educate the public, their doctors, lawmakers. My therapist was totally against nicotine use. And just recently, she helped me in a Zoom meeting discuss nicotine with two very concerned parents whose 17-year-old had started vaping. And as they described how their child changed when he started vaping, I told them I thought he had ADHD. And she went and read a whole mess of our materials on the wiki and educated herself about nicotine, and actually had a meeting with those parents and encouraged them to have their son tested. And guess what? He was self-medicating. That child has ADHD. So now his parents are supporting him and helping him instead of punishing him. So that was a really cool little side thing that came out of that wiki project.
Beautiful.
That's brilliant.
We learn things about ourselves. I mean, obviously that we use to help other people. And the sad part is in most communities, people that are on the spectrum, people that are neurodiverse, people that have bipolar disorder, people that have schizophrenia are othered. I mean, in many places, it's still not something that people talk openly about. You know, they're embarrassed by it, or you know, they feel demonized by it. And the thing is I don't know who said it a while ago, but you know, being neurodiverse is just a superpower, because when something is taken away, something else is amplified.
Yes.
So you know, I have obsessive compulsive disorder. That just means that I'm very ordered. And if something is out of order, then one of the other problems kicks in, and then I'm agitated until I put it in order. So
I've called you a few other things. It's funny you the ashamed or embarrassment, especially when you're young and you're ultra aware of what other people are thinking of you, and people of our age, well, I'll use that term loosely, care a little less, in my opinion. But like with my son at 26 now, at 21 or so, when he was, you know, officially diagnosed, it was hard for him to understand, because I'm weird, I'm different, whatever. And superpower is a great thing. I can actually use that with him. It's not to be ashamed of. It takes a lot for people that have been through things all their lives, who care a little less like us, and say, hey, kiss my butt. This is how I am, and this is why I'm doing this. When you have a child doing it, and a website of all things brings the doctor and the parents from people like us who have already been shunned as smokers into the forefront of saying, hey, this child has an issue. Let's dig a little deeper. So I give kudos to the doctor for listening with you, Skip, and then proceeding until she figured it out. That's even more beautiful, and it shows how powerful people like us, you know, those people are. So Richard and Alan, because he's always trouble, sparking that interest, and then you guys doing what you do is just a stepping stone for pro-human. You know, That's what it is.
It's very true. It's my therapist that suggested I try salts, so that I could vape a higher nicotine, because The regular nicotine, the real high is just too harsh and I can't handle vaping it. And the difference in my ADHD is amazing. I mean, I still struggle. I have a lot of struggles with emotional regulation. Starting a task is hard. Finishing a task is hard. I'm very prone to falling into rabbit holes. But it's amazing. You know, I have worked with people with disabilities my whole life. My brother's learning disabled. My husband's learning disabled. My father-in-law was learning disabled. I work in a group home. I provide services for people with disabilities. I've been a very vocal advocate for disabilities my whole life. And yet when I got diagnosed, I should have felt relieved to finally know why I'm different or why I do the things I do. But I was very, very embarrassed. And I don't even know why my head went there. I have 4 different times told a parent of a toddler that they should have their child tested for autism. And all 4 times I was right. How do I see this in other people and never see it in myself? Other than it was my normal. And I didn't tell anybody for months after I got diagnosed. I finally, on a Facebook chat, told Matthew Milby my diagnosis. He was the first person I shared that with. And that was because he was sharing his personal story and I got comfortable. And the second person I told was Aaron. And I still wasn't vocal about it until Charles Gardner said, you know, you really need to go public and share your story because it'll help other people. And I like to be a helper. That's my autism thing. I that's very important to me to help. So it's amazing now that I have come forward and shared my story, how many people go, oh, me too, me too. And I now have a whole family of people that are just like me. And I've never, ever had that my whole life. It is the coolest thing on earth to finally be somewhere where I'm not weird and I'm accepted. And
Well, I mean, I won't testify that you're not weird because
everybody's weird.
Because we sort of wear that badge with honor.
Or cranky.
Cranky.
I won't. You know, I still don't like what Kevin calls you.
That's because you're chicken.
It's a term of endearment.
No,
one
sir.
Of the things, yes,
where I
it
come
is.
from, gentlemen don't say that thing.
I have always liked people, even if I don't actually fit into their circle. I always say I put my sandbox next to somebody else's sandbox instead of playing in their sandbox. But I like people. I like being helpful, but I have a really super strong sense of right and wrong. And when things are not right and I feel they're wrong, my whole life I've had a reputation for what my family calls my poison pen. And if you piss me off, I take out my pen and I can write not so nice things. And I think when I first started advocating for vapor products, there was so much wrong that I just needed to let everybody have it. And now I'm trying really, really hard to push be kind, because I've learned that if I be nasty to people, they're never going to listen to me and they're never going to change their minds. And I'm really tired of watching people die from smoking, and dang it, I'm going to change some minds before I die. That's my bucket list.
Well, you got another 100 years or so it'll be fine.
I'm 63, my dear, and most of my family dies right around 70. So
No.
I actually feel that clock is ticking pressure. Like, if you're going to make a difference in the world, then get off your tuchus and go out there and do something.
Well, that doesn't mean you have to mark the calendar either.
Plus, you have to fill out an application.
I think, in all honesty, that calendar was marked when I decided that my life wasn't worth living anymore. And
but
I burned that calendar. I want to be here for a while.
Good.
Absolutely. We want you to stick around, Skip.
Yes.
I'm not done giving Patrick a bad time yet. Now that I've been on his show, I have to find something new to give him a bad time about.
I showed you receipts where you basically said,
I have a list. I have a list.
don't make me be on the show. But so here's the thing though. All of us were kids, right? We were. I mean, I came out not fully grown, and in our childhood, at least here in the States, I don't know about the UK, but when you go to school, the kids that are different, they're sequestered. They're pushed away from the normal kids, almost like the adults think that what they have is contagious.
Yes, absolutely. And that's so wrong that it's not true. Because
does anybody actually think that for the mental health of those children that that doesn't make them feel like they're less than?
Ashamed?
Of course it does.
Shunned?
Of course it does. It's a ridiculous thing to do, to actually segregate people based on the fact that they're slightly different. I mean, things have improved a lot recently in that things have got more inclusive. There's still a long way to go, but back when I went to school, which is quite a while ago now, we were almost put into different classes and looked down on by everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And heaven knows I should have PTSD because of that, but somehow I've managed, whether it's the nicotine or what, somehow I've managed to avoid that.
Well, I mean,
But
that's a benefit, but those of us that were diagnosed later, like, I wasn't diagnosed until I was
I wasn't diagnosed until I wasn't diagnosed until I was in my 40s.
So that at least helped you.
When I was at school, I was put into the idiots class or the lower level class,
special needs,
because I had attitude problems and people thought that I was just being difficult, and I wasn't. I was just being different.
You were being you.
And
luckily,
yes.
Luckily, I had a mother who was. I might have some of my mother's personality traits. She was my defender. I was actually in all of the gifted classes. However, I didn't meet their cookie cutter idea of what should be. I had long hair down to my backside. I had behavioral problems, but I came in and I scored higher than everybody around me. So they said he can't be cheating because he's scoring higher than everyone around him.
I mean, it's weird that I was also in some of the higher classes for things which
interested
me because of autism. You have special interests. So in electronics, physics, and biology, I was in the gifted class. And why the school couldn't figure out that I was actually really very smart and very focused when I wanted to be, but that I had issues with focusing on things I wasn't interested in. But for some reason, they didn't actually ever figure that out.
Yeah,
and
no.
And they were in charge.
You were just hyperactive. You were just that hyper kid. You were just, that's what they used to call us. Or he's a daydreamer.
Well, and
yes,
for those of us with autism that are older, when we were children, autism wasn't a thing. You were diagnosed with schizophrenia, but not autism. They didn't really start diagnosing autism until the 80s. And it's very common for females to not be diagnosed with autism or ADHD.
Oh yeah, but it's females
until they're
don't get
adults.
autism, yes.
Yeah, they do. But girls have a tendency to be more social and wanting to belong. So girls have a tendency to observe behaviors and mimic them and mask their own. Masking is a huge thing for people with autism and causes quite a few of them to burn out.
So they're compensating.
Yeah.
Are they compensating for the issues that they're having by mimicking the other kid? Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yep.
I mean, that's how I lived my life for years and years. Everything was a front. I mean, it was literally, I put a mask on to go and interact with the world.
Yep.
And now the world can go to heck, and I'm just going to be myself because
if I could highlight comments, I would highlight Bruni's comment there. It says, "I was labeled anti-authoritarian."
Yes, that was me
too.
See, I was.
But yes, putting on a disguise, playing a character in school, that's what you do to get by.
Yes. I was an A student. I didn't get sent to special classes. I was identified as a gifted student, but I had a single parent trying to raise 2 kids. And the gifted program was $15 for every subject you were gifted in, and my mom couldn't afford it. So I wasn't allowed to participate in gifted student programs. So, yeah, I was told to take classes like home ec and shop and because that's what people from divorced families do wasn't even encouraged.
I mean, I don't want to sound ugly here, but it sounds like they were trying to make you butch.
Yeah.
Versus addressing what was really wrong. I mean, back then, they thought that was a mental illness as well.
Right.
Thank God we've progressed. But yeah, I mean, that seems like a ham-handed way of trying to solve your problem.
I was a hardcore tomboy, so I liked taking wood shop and auto mechanics.
I thought the tomboys were sexy.
Yeah, I think they're sexy. I don't know. I can ride a Harley. Can you?
Yes.
I can rebuild a car engine. I like mechanical things. I like knowing what makes things work. Just naturally curious.
Absolutely.
If I could just figure out computers.
The wonderful thing is that there are people in our chat room that are talking along, that are participating, who have very similar issues, very similar stories. I'm seeing Bruni. I see Kath is in the chat room, and I sent her the link so that she could be here. But we are actually running towards the end of our talk. I did appeal for more time, so we do have a little more time, guys. So we don't have to rush. Like last night, I felt rushed, and I didn't even need to. They were like, "You could have gone over."
Hello, let me just say I don't like either of you.
Well, that's understandable.